Finley was born in Santa Clarita. He came out at 15, where he started his gender journey. He was the GSA president of his high school and was really involved and active in local activism. In 2020, he started the Santa Clarita LGBT Center, which still exists, although he's no longer the acting president, given that he is in grad school and had to move away from Santa Clarita. But he really created a place for people to be able to congregate, to create community, and to be able to make friends, meet each other in a safe and welcoming environment. He's currently in San Francisco pursuing his graduate degree in human sexuality studies. And I'm just so glad that you could be with us tonight, Finley. So take it away. I can't wait to hear all the great things, not only that you're up to, but how it came about and how your activism just came about and materialized and all the great things that you're doing.
Right. So I kind of started off things. So I came out in middle school and I started my transition, or no, high school. And I started my transition as I changed schools. So that was pretty lucky to be able to go into a new environment with this new identity and have that kind of seamless little transition. And then it felt like I feel like a lot of my purpose in activism has been bringing a trans voice to narratives going on that don't really have trans voices available. So like I was the first like trans person on the GSA board because when I got to school, I was like the 10th grade, the sophomore liaison, and then I was the president for the next 2 years. And then just kind of like other things that I've done in activism has been lending this this voice, especially since not everyone feels comfortable talking about these things in their journeys and stuff like that, or answering questions, which is totally fine. But it's important to have some people to do it so that the world can know about the stories and the diversity of the stories, and just all the different perspectives and the different, just everything that comes along with being trans in a dominantly cisgender world. So do you have like more of like a specific question I can answer or anything like that?
Well, in terms of how did it come about that you founded an LGBT center? Because typically, even in our area, there's an LGBT center, and it seems like in terms of structuring that, it's a pretty big endeavor, and for it to actually work and be consistently available to the community, like how did it come about, and how did you make it happen?
Right. So I went for my undergraduate degree, I went to the same school I'm going to now for my master's degree, San Francisco State University. And then COVID hit, and then, everyone was sent home. So I came back to Santa Clarita, and I was like, I'd been in San Francisco only like 7 months, but it changed. I just kind of forgot what Santa Clarita was like. And so I got back, and it was like almost like a slap in the face of just how different it was, and the atmosphere, and just my comfortability within the city. So I was just kind of like, wow, we're really lacking on a lot of stuff. And it just didn't seem like there was PFLAG, but at the time it wasn't nearly as strong as it was now, thanks to what I believe my mom's involvement. Mm-hmm. And there was this other group, but they were more of like a low-key social group that was like very, very like only for like LGBTQ adults, and then it was only like social things. So what they offered was very limited. And and when I was coming out and going through my initial gender journey, I had to drive all the way down to LA for any needs that I had, which wasn't the worst, but it was, it was a schlep, especially if I wanted to do it every week. which I did. So yeah, so until I can drive, my mom was taking me down there, and then I was taking myself down there, and but it was a lot. It's like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on traffic, and just for like group of people who I just feel comfortable talking to, like, and that was before school. That was when I was like a teenager. So in school, COVID brought me back home, and I was just very disappointed by just what the city lacks, and not just in like resources, but just in like any kind of representation or attitude or anything. It's just the conservatism can really just staunch so much. Um, so I was like, well, okay, well, it doesn't look like anyone else is going to do it because no one has. So I guess I may as well. So that's just kind of how that went, of like, a lot of times you just have to do it, even if you don't really want to, but you want it to happen. Someone's got to get it started. And I don't want to say I didn't want to. I did want to, but it was a scary thing because I knew that, like, I knew it was not going to be easy, and all the advice was like, it's not going to be easy, be prepared for it to be very difficult. And I was like, I'm going to stay positive and then it'll be easy, and it wasn't. But I still stayed positive. And so I got it, so I started it, and a lot of it was, just getting a good board, which took a long time. We went through some people, mostly one person who was, some people join and they have good intentions, but not everyone just like works well with others, or has um the work ethic needed for starting an organization that's just meant for the community and stuff like that. So it was a lot of trial and error with finding board members, but it ended up with a really good board and really good people. And yeah, I've definitely always been more hands-on activism. Like, I was out in the streets, I was making signs, I was I do like volunteering. And so this kind of like business aspect was very out of my wheelhouse, to the point where it was all completely new to me. I'd never like seen half the documents before. I didn't know half of what was going on until I had to do it. And that was a really interesting learning curve. But it also just taught me a lot about what nonprofits are, what their place is in bureaucracy, like what the kind of dedication you need, the kind of resources that you need to start that stuff. And luckily we were able to get a licensed accountant as our treasurer, who's just amazing. She does all the paperwork for us, and she's just like has a heart of gold and is wonderful. And she's an ally. And so it's really cool to have that. Because it's, we ideally, like, a majority queer board would be perfect, but it's hard to find LGBTQ people who also fill the requirements that we need to effectively move forward with a business, which is what it was doing. It was starting a business.
Yeah.
And so that took time, and we lost people that were really good, and we got people who were not very good, and then just stuff like that. It's a lot of trial and error with everything. But it was so worth it. And just being able to just like, so many people would just approach me at events and be like, I can't believe you were able to pull this off. I can't believe you're not being kicked out. I can't believe like whatever, wherever we are, like, I can't believe there aren't like 100 protesters, like people who've lived in Santa Clarita all their lives or most of their lives, and we're just like astounded that this huge group of LGBTQ and associated individuals are just gathering together and just doing an event happy, and it's successful and stuff like that. And it just really just that alone it does so much for the community. And it really shows people that this place isn't, it's not a dead end for being, if you're queer. It's not like somewhere that you just have to leave to be yourself. And I think it's with the start of the LGBT centers, and then with the PFLAG getting much stronger, I feel as though the attitudes in this city have been shifting. And there's definitely the conservatives, but I feel as though the people who support this stuff are more and more coming out about it and talking about it and being open about it, and people are being more inclusive, and it's slowly making its way around, and it's really really wonderful to see.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you say it took you some time, how much time are we talking about, from like the beginning of like, oh, well, I guess no one else is doing it, I'm going to do it, to having your board, and then really having an open forum, or is there a location, or are you sharing a building or a room somewhere, or?
So there's no location yet. That's definitely something being worked on. There are like financial goals you need to meet to get there. Which like we had like a pretty good steady donation, but not enough, not like to the amount needed for a location. We've gotten like some people reaching out, but nothing really ended up working out. So right now it's just kind of it's a non-physical center. Most of it is like virtual with all like the resources, and then like we do events and we table at things, and I'll do talks, and I still do, even though I'm not the president, I still do talks because it's just one of the things I'm better at. Just being that kind of like speaker, leader kind of person. So wait, what was the question? Sorry.
How much time did it take you? Because you
Right.
said it took a long time.
So by the time I left, it had been 2 years since I started it.
Okay.
Um, and I'd say that honestly, it's hard because there's also just so much going on, other things going on. But a lot of it just depends on like the people who are there. So we kind of got stuck because one of the first people I hired onto the board ended up just really like slowing us down because they just did not get along with others. They would argue at every point. And it was difficult. It was really, dealing with um, those kinds of people is a really, really big challenge, especially since it's like they, in the end, like their heart is in the right place. They join this organization to do good, to further the cause, but their methods of doing so can be detrimental to the organization and its members.
Mhm.
And so figuring that stuff out, and then learning, what to do to properly interview people, and actually call references. I that was I'd never done that before. I just like, oh, they put references, that probably means that it's good. And if I'd called those persons, like asked around more, I would have known, because that person had like hopped from organization to organization, getting kicked out of like everyone.
Mhm.
Um, so it's like very like red flags that I wish I had paid attention to, but I just didn't look, because
Yes.
I was very desperate for board members. But it's important to really like outreach, like make sure as many people know about it as possible, so that even if they don't participate, maybe they'll know someone who does. And it's just getting the word out of the organization, of what you need, of what you're doing, is just so important.
Yeah.
And so I'd say it was probably a good like couple months after starting before I had a good like a solid board. And then um I don't know, it was just kind of a slow steady growth from there. We did like, a needs assessment survey to see what people wanted. We kind of used that to structure a lot of the resources, and like put our focus on certain resources. And then it was a lot of just like tabling, doing some big events, usually with like other organizations too. And yeah, and so I'd say that like I don't know if there's quite a timeline for it. A lot of it just depends, because I was also a student. I was also just 19 and a 19-year-old. So I had a lot on my mind and a lot of other stuff I was doing. So I think the timeline really just depends on, you know, how much you're trying to get done when, what you're able to feasibly do, how much your board is able and willing to participate with, which, does everything. And I had a really hard time letting go of controlling, because I just felt like every job I knew I could do it perfectly. So why give it to someone else? But then I was just so overwhelmed with all these tasks that I wouldn't do them because I was so overwhelmed, and then not a lot got done. And that would happen like multiple times, throughout these 2 years, where I would just get so overwhelmed that I just kind of shut down from all of it. And then I'd be like, okay, no, let's just do thing by thing. And then like, doing, just paying attention to task by like individual tasks, getting them done. And then before you know it, you're like, you've made so much progress. Um, it's hard though. It's really hard to stick with things, and keep the dedication and keep the momentum going. Um, and I haven't checked in a ton with this summer with them because of I had this summer job up in on the San Bernardino Mountains as a camp counselor, which was basically like hardly any access to like internet and stuff like that. And then like in this past 2 weeks, I've been moving to San Francisco. So, but I'm still in the text channels, so I'm still like giving my 2 cents when I can. Yeah, and I hope to see it thrive more as it goes on, and I hope to stay at least relatively involved as much as I can as a grad student.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a question that popped into the chat, and I'm actually from Linda, and I'm actually thinking we're having a mind meld because the services that you offer, what you said that in order to get things started, you really you did a needs assessment, but what are the things that you focused on, or what were like the priorities or the services that your LGBT center offers the community?
Right now, we're more of a resource hub. So we work on gathering resources based on the needs that we hear people have. And then, so basically like they could like email us and then we can direct them to what they need. And so a lot of it is like, we get like stuff about like, like transition stuff. And so we have a lot of resources and just a lot of like knowledge bases of how to start, where to start, depending on your age, depending on your, are you a minor? Are your parents are okay with everything? What can happen with your situation? We do like safe zone trainings. We've done like talks just like to like groups of people about just like basic like LGBTQ awareness. The events that we do, like like pride events, a lot like social ones, and then also like food drives and toy drives, um, stuff like that. There's a lot of like I remember we have like a lot of ideas. A lot of it's just outreach, is getting people, it's like we want to do like haircuts, but we then we have to get stylists who are willing to donate their time and resources. And I know there's a lot of activities in the making. In terms of like activities, we there's like there's like a library group for younger individuals, like kids and teens. There's like groups that exist, like there's like a girls tabletop gaming group that's very like LGBT oriented, and so we like advertise about that. Yeah, so it's more just connecting people, and it's like if they're like, hey, these are like this is like, I'm looking for a support group, these are like what I need help with. And then we're like, okay, well, we know about these ones, these kind of fit your needs, give these a shot, let us know, stuff like that. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of people just email being like, hey, this is what I can offer, let me know if I can do anything, and we're like, noted, we will let you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as my understanding from what you were sharing in your story was that there was really not a sense that there was visibility or visible community in Santa Clarita from your standpoint after you came out. And so when you created this, did you kind of find that the everyone just started to kind of bubble to the surface and go, hey, I'm part of the community, and I need this, I want this? Is that what you found?
Kind of, yeah. And honestly, as it kept going, it was very consistent with people who had never heard of us, even though we'd, like people, we'd be like a year in, 2 years in, and people would be like, we have an LGBT center. And it's like, yeah, we do. It's people still are learning about it all the time. And it's just, Sorry, can you repeat that? I'm a little scatterbrained sometimes.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I was asking if you, when announcing your center, and you've answered the question, where people just kind of started flocking to it, or
Yeah.
really coming together, and that was your intention the whole time, was to be a cause for a community of LGBT people that would be safe and welcome and well represented. And so,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's definitely drawn a lot of people and made a lot of um like we didn't expect all the like LGBTQ owned businesses. Like there are so many, like upwards of like
Mm,
20, in this, in like like in all of Santa Clarita, which is just amazing. And then like we put them all together, and so like on a list so that you can like, so what local things are LGBTQ friendly, um, and stuff like that, which is just like, it's great because then we're also giving business to the LGBTQ individuals, um and so that's been great too, is just like people who are like, hey, I have a business, I'm queer, uh and then we're like, that's amazing. And it's like we have like, there's like a pet groomer, there's a lot of like bakeries, and then people who like make their own soap and stuff like that, uh and like real estate, and just like so many different like just completely different businesses that are just owned or operated by LGBTQ individuals, or by like people who are just total allies and just want to like be very obvious with their support, which is just amazing to see, um
that's,
especially here, because it takes a lot of guts to be openly LGBTQ um affirming at all.
mhm.
It's you're asking for trouble here a little bit. It's like we've gotten like notes on our cars, and we've gotten like just disrespect from neighbors, or from people around, just for like having a pride flag in the front and stuff like that. And so when people choose to be open about that stuff, they're choosing that, the for the they're making a choice that they know can come with these kinds of repercussions. And it's really amazing, because
Mhm.
it can be scary, even if it's just like a little thing, no, it still is kind of like, okay, so now someone sees it, and someone isn't okay with it, and like what might they do next? And so it's
Yes.
hard, but the more people are open about it, and know that it's like okay, the better it gets
Mm,
as a whole.
yeah. And one last question before I turn it over to the rest of the group that's here tonight. As far as the collaboration, or have you found that the having close ties to your PFLAG chapter, given that it's in with your mom, did you find that was helpful? And that like, what was the maybe some of the, how did that contribute to helping you get, either not necessarily get it off the ground, but more so with events, or with getting connected to businesses, or getting the word out? Because really I'm seeing it from the standpoint of, we have a PFLAG chapter that's really active in the community. There's also an LGBT center, and it's how to really help create more, more synergies, so that we can
Hmm.
really support what is already in existence, or uh, build something that's going to just be stronger for representation and community.
Yeah, well, I think that making those connections are so important. It was definitely, I got like a shortcut because my mom became the president of our PFLAG chapter, so it made it very easy. We have a lot of the same goals, and the same like just ideas about things and stuff like that. So when it came to like collaboration, it was seamless, because we were both in agreement on everything. And so it was like, yeah, we want to do this, let's get it done. And then we were just working together using both of our resources to achieve things. And and it was a little difficult to bring in that third organization, because they weren't as easily swayed. They're very like cautious about including non-LGBTQ individuals in their um in what they do,
Okay.
which in some senses is understandable because people have been hurt. Um, but also, like, me and my mom have very firm beliefs of, you know, the queer community cannot, like, we don't have to be self-sustaining, because there are people who want to help. And if they want to help and they have that drive to be included, then they should be. And I don't see the point of saying no to help and saying no to aid and resources and stuff like that, because then we'd just be putting ourselves at a disadvantage. Um, but yeah, so just like that collaboration has been, it's wonderful, and it would work really well. And yeah, so that's been great. And I think that, though it won't be as easy, because I doubt any of your close relatives are um, heads of the LGBT center, it's still very worth making those ties, because, just people want to be involved. And I think that allies and people who are LGBTQ adjacent, they want, they have that drive. They want to show their support. And a lot of times they have a lot more resources available to them than LGBTQ individuals, especially LGBTQ youth. And a lot of times LGBTQ people who are, like, older and in the workforce and stuff like that, sometimes they can't really do much, because they might, because it might be dangerous, or they might not be ready for that yet. And so having those allies who can, you know, do things for us that could be really hard for us to do ourselves, or just more difficult, is invaluable.
Absolutely.